I'm using OBS. After I
Mhm.
think I'm getting OBS tomorrow, and I'm getting a new overlay and everything, so I'm just gonna start using it over there. But it's actually pretty easy. I'm in a window capture right now, so it's like just the browser.
Yeah, I've got OBS and
Mhm.
I've used it. It's just I have this problem where that my camera like it doesn't want to use OBS and another thing at the same time, so it shuts off on one of them. But I found if I start streaming and then start OBS, then
Mhm.
it'll work. But I don't know. It's been confusing. I know it happens because it's this arcane thing that you're doing right now. I actually opened us up early on
Mhm.
my stream as a result. But this is nice. Now we've got your viewers and my viewers, and when Vadim gets back, we can like start the stream officially and proper.
True, true. I have to be honest, my viewership is a little low right now. I did some weird React Andy content, okay, and on Twitch. Everyone
Mhm.
hates the React Andy content on there. It's
React Andy kind of, what like you reacted to stuff like you were like Vosh or something or
yeah, I was just looking at Alex Jones videos, and everyone hates it
oh
for some reason. They were funny clips, but there's a big meme on Twitch about like reacting to videos.
oh okay. Well, I didn't know about that. It's so weird, like just kind of feeling my age at this
Mhm.
point. Because I've got like the Sekiro hair
Mhm.
cutting in here. I think Vadim and me are around the same age. You're a lot younger. But this is like I'm fairly new in just like the whole streamer thing on
Mhm.
YouTube. And I don't even have a Twitch, or I do have a Twitch, but I haven't really set it up to specifically like stream. So I can't, indoctrinate the gamers.
The gamer, oh, the gamer community.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now and then like on top of that, now there's like Discord and all the cool kids are on Discord. Like when I was doing my radio show, we used to work via Skype, honestly. And
Mhm.
people like look at me like I'm insane when I ask if we want to stream with Skype.
I've never used Skype before, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm a
So
zoomer. Yeah.
cool. So Vadim, we started a little bit early because I realized that Polar outed us. So we are on stream right now.
Yeah, I heard. That's cool.
Okay, great. Hello everybody. Welcome to Insurrection with Brenton Lengel or Polarsworld, or wherever else you see this. If you're just getting to know me, my name is Brenton Lengel. I am a poet, playwright. I've had 7 plays produced in New York City, and I'm the author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse. And I'm super excited on the second issue because that has it's being shipped to me. The special Kickstarter premiums are being shipped to me on Monday. I will sign them and send them out to all of you wonderful people. So issue number 2, you're going to be getting it. And then Scout will be publishing it, the rest of it later on. So that's really exciting. Here, why don't you guys introduce yourself? Polar, do you want to go? And then we'll have Vadim close out. He'll be our anchor.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Polar. I'm in high school. I do political content on the internet. If I was not streaming, I would be doing the exact same thing with my free time. I like to debate people. I like to meme. I also have a lot of schoolwork. So that's who I am.
Cool. And Vadim, you need no introduction, but just in case someone's been living under a rock.
My name is Vadim. I go by Hey It's Vadim, at least on Twitter. We'll be going on Hey It's Vadim on my channel, which is currently called Creationist Cat. It's going to be a little rebranding at some point. Other than that, I apologize. I did not know. I don't know how this is broadcasting. I brought this up earlier, and probably nobody cares, but I'm a little OCD. And it's bothering me that my name strip is so goddamn long across the.
I think you can. Can you change it, or do you want to go out and come back in?
I would like to. It's not that big a deal to me, but I want to apologize to anyone who visually it offends as much as it does me. So I probably should. Maybe I could have done without the pronouns. I feel like it's the kind of courteous thing to do these days. Anyway.
Well, I think your extra long name kind of works with your brand. You do a lot of really interesting content, and it tends to kind of fall outside of like standard punchy stuff. Like it's still punchy, but it's long form punchy. So I think your name's fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm tweeting this out, by the way, but yeah, continue.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, I'm here to shoot the shit about anything you guys want. But are we talking about the stream we had yesterday? Is that the like main topic or what?
I mean, I figured we'd talk about this. I figured we'd talk about the stream and then see kind of where the night takes us. I mean, you're streaming with an anarchist, so if we go in another direction, I'm totally fine with that, bro.
Cool. Yeah, it's funny to me, man. I would say, I don't know. I would say, in spite of the fact that some of the folks we were talking to are extremely ignorant in other ways, most of them, I'll just say I think Suspect Sushi is kind of a doofus.
Yeah.
But the other ones, it's like it's interesting when you're talking with people who definitely display certain signs of intelligence, and it's like you're not exactly sure what it is that keeps them from acknowledging. I mean, I wasn't astonished because it's the same shit that I kind of just come to expect from right wingers or anyone who's like vaguely trying to defend Trump. But I just put out there: is there anything that Donald Trump has said and done that you think is legitimately either socially destructive or just massively wrong? And there was just like radio silence, even from the Turk, who I thought was probably like the most down to earth out of all four of the conservatives that we talked to. So.
Yeah. I thought he was probably the most down to earth, though I wasn't 100% sure he was being honest with a lot of things. Because like it was really interesting to see when he like basically was like, well, you know, the liberals have to give too, and you're planning to pack the Supreme Court, and I had just come out in favor of like abolishing the Supreme Court. Right. And like the other liberal guy, the really liberal guy, what was his name?
Pisco?
Pisco, yeah.
Pisco. I have to make that clear. Yeah,
Pisco. Yeah, he like got really rattled by that. I even went back and looked over the stream afterwards, and like like the size of saucers.
I just don't see what is inherently. I mean, yeah, it's out of kind of the norm, but you know, we do change slightly our system of government here and there. We make tweaks and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe I'm being an apologist here. Maybe I would find that outrageous if the right wingers did that. But it's just I'm sorry. Would I rather live with the awful repercussions of several decades worth of a super right-wing SCOTUS majority, or, you know, do something a little out of the ordinary? And isn't there, I was trying to, as we were talking, I was trying to figure out like what the precedence of it was. I think maybe that it was something that used to be done, and then there was some sort of rule that was imposed, maybe by FDR against it. But
against court packing?
Yeah, I could be totally wrong about that.
I don't know if he imposed the rule. I think he thought about court packing and then chose not to do it. By the way, just real quick before we really jump into the nitty gritty, because we got some viewers at this point, and I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, nobody's lost and knows what we're talking about, since my viewership is primarily on YouTube and I haven't been able to upload a copy of this debate. We just finished an 8-way debate in which the three of us participated on Dylan Burns's Twitch channel. Dylan Burns is a pretty major up and coming Twitch account. I was excited to be on there, and it was against both liberal. It was like a couple of leftists, liberals, and some conservatives, and at least one possibly 3 fascists. So like the whole debate was kind of like really all over the place, but the topics, the first one was media bias is like the media left bias towards the left wing. And then the second one was, what should be done with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, should the position be filled or not? Like, would you guys, is that a fair characterization of the debate?
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm curious. Does Wake the Beast, does he identify as libertarian? Like,
he's like dark enlightenment. He at the end of the thing, he said he wanted kings, philosophers,
warriors, and aristocrats, something like that. Yeah, we're talking about that.
He's been suckered by mendacious moldbug, I think, and those old weirdos. So like he's basically trying to bring back enlightened monarchy.
Yeah. So you guys don't know, Sushi joined the Proud Boys.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I called that out during the stream, and right a few moments afterwards, he was like, "What, does that make me a fascist?" And I should have just said, "Yep."
It totally. When you join a fascist organization, it makes you a fascist.
Very much so, Sushi. I just can't take that guy seriously. The others, like that guy Monotech. He said some ignorant things, but he's like,
you mean Drone Tech?
Drone Tech. Is it Drone Tech? I'm talking about the guy who was the stand-in for. Oh no! I'm not talking about the stand-in for Wake the Beast. I'm talking about the guy who he had a beard and who was not me and was not Brenton. And he had an American, like a wooden American
that's Drone Tech
thing behind him.
Drone Tech, yeah.
It's a boomer level connection that he kept dallecking.
Yeah, I've kind of like he said some ignorant things. I wish I could have, it was just really off subject. So at one point he was like, Democrats, they're for science, but they'll say like a man can have a child, and I was like, well, yes, they can, and I kind of wanted to like go into why that is, but it was so off topic. My point is though,
in the sorry, not to interrupt you, but like even in the like chat that we had going between us, I put in the thing about that man in like Germany or England or something who had the working womb, and they always do this afterwards. They're always like, you proved them wrong, and they're like, well, there's not enough of them.
Yes,
as if that has anything to do with what they just said. So I'm sorry. What were you going to say there?
I was going to say what kind of
Vadim, because I interrupted Vadim.
Oh, I don't. Well, I was just going to say that I've kind of chatted with him, not a one-on-one like we are in through video, but just DMs, and he seems friendly, and I don't know, I'm sure we have a million disagreements. I might even think he was a dick. I don't know him that well. But, I'm just saying that I appreciate it if somewhat like he doesn't seem like he's very right-wing, but he doesn't seem like at least knowingly fascist, and and then on top of that, he just, I don't know, I guess to some degree, I mean, like if Nick Fuentes was like, hey, we should hang out, I'd be like, fuck off. But I don't know.
Take there.
Friendly enough that he's like, hey, let's chat. It would be cool to hear your point of view, and yada yada yada. I don't think he's doing it to for nefarious reasons. So I'm just saying, seems like he might be somewhat of a nice guy. I mean, politics don't completely define people. Not always, so.
Yeah, I thought Drone Tech was a nice guy, and I thought he was genuine. He was engaging in good faith. He was also oblivious to a lot of stuff, and he had clearly been affected by like white nationalist propaganda, because he was doing why aren't they reporting on the killings of white people like they're reporting on the killings of black people? And I tried to explain that in the but it's really difficult, especially because it was off topic, and it's kind of a sophisticated socio-political point. And usually conservatives either don't want to hear it, or then they just act incredulous when you try to explain complicated stuff like that to them.
Yeah, that's kind of the advantage of being a conservative, is that you can say a whole lot of crap that doesn't make any form of sense, but it comes off real easy. Like, what kind of Joantek, like, he messaged me. He seems like a nice guy, but what kind of annoyed me during that whole debate is we established that, like, hey, media is this complex thing. It's not as like this conglomerate as presented, and they still use like the media does this, the media does that, and it's like, you literally proved my point. You're just using the same downstream talking points as the president. Like,
they're just repeating what they've heard. It's like, I was having an argument on my wall. And on my Facebook wall, not like on my actual wall. And what happened was that, like, it wound up being an argument about, like, trans people and, like, the meaning of the term woman. And what I found was that, like, one of the guys that I was arguing with literally was getting all of his talking points from Sargon of Akkad. And I know that because I debated Sargon of Akkad on trans women in sports. And so literally I just had to be like, look, you're just repeating Sargon. Stop it. That's not a good idea.
Sargon's points on those issues are so ridiculous. He literally argues that we need to have genders rigidly defined, as, you know, that there can be nothing in between, and yada yada yada. Because of the fact that if we didn't, a portion of our society would basically go insane. That's like really. I mean, I don't even think I'm really like straw manning that at all. Like that's I forget which. It might have been yours, but no, I think it was a discussion that he had with Jangle Science Lad. I could be wrong, and V. And another party, but he
did it in mine too.
When it comes to that stuff,
he argues that we have to have this rigidly defined system of gender so the stupid people don't lose their minds. And that, you know, honestly, that after talking to Sargon, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe, because I haven't seen someone be this pig-headed about something. But I noticed something that I hadn't picked up on in the debate. And this is something to watch out for, because one of the things I do want to talk about with you guys is like debate tactics and really sneaky things. This will be good for anybody listening if they're wanting to watch a debate and be more critical about it. And also, like, maybe if they want to engage in debates, these are tactics to watch out for. So Sargon did this very interesting thing that I didn't even pick up on in our debate. And then when the Sargon clone that I was arguing with on my wall did the same thing, that's when it clicked and I realized what happened. So I link, there's a great article that came out from Nature Journal, literally the most cited English language scientific journal. This is the most respected scientific publication in the Western world. Sure. And like when they put out editorials, it's not like a newspaper editorial. It's like freaking scientists sitting down and explaining something important about science the lay people need to understand. So in this article, they wound up saying essentially that, you know, science views sex and gender as separate things. Sex deals with biological characteristics, and gender is rooted, it is somewhat informed by sex, but it is rooted in culture and popular ideas, and one is not the other, and that essentially the research and medical community views gender as a spectrum that contains transgender people and people that identify as neither male nor female, and sex is a spectrum that science can't even come down on. Like they can't be like, this is 100% a woman or 100% a man, no matter what, because they're ideals.
I believe they call it like a bimodal distribution.
Yeah. And so like what they wind up, and by the way, folks, a bunch of cool stuff has come through the chat, so we will get to you guys in just a second, but I want to stay focused on this for now, because this is the argument. So in my debate, Sargon went and tried to appeal to language. And what he said was, well, these people aren't women because the definition of woman is adult human female. And I said, okay, well, where'd you get that definition from? It's like, well, it's my definition, but it seems reasonable.
Can I just say real quickly, I hate when people use that form of argumentation because just language is it's a living thing. It's words are constantly in all different ways being expanded. Definitions are added to them. We add new words. It's a living thing.
Yeah.
Like the way that we use language just is constantly evolving. So it's a lame like when anybody uses that argument, I know that they're going down a ridiculous road. It depends really, but anyway.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. It's an appeal to definition, and and guys, I will link that as soon as I'm done getting this. I just don't want to lose my train of thought, but I will link the Nature Journal article in the chat for you all. So here's the thing that happens though. When he goes, first, appealing to definition is what we call begging the question. It's where if you appeal to definition, it's a circular argument where you assume the conclusion in the premise of the argument. So for instance, if I make an argument about race and I give a specialized definition for race for the purposes of this argument, someone might say, well, no, the dictionary says this is race and therefore this is race. And it sounds like they're doing it, but really circular argument because, okay, but we're not even talking about it within that context. Because definitions change based upon how you talk about a word because language is symbolic. Now, the instinct is to respond with exactly how you did, Vadim, and that's how I started to respond to Sargon, and he was able to kind of pull me into the weeds, and then suddenly we're arguing about words instead of arguing about gender. But this occurred to me. It's just nuh-uh. Like it's literally when you say the definition of woman is adult human female, what you're really saying is nuh-uh, sex and gender are the same thing because what you've done, but you've done it in a very clever roundabout way. So if I say, okay, sex is this and gender is this, they are separate but related terms. And you say, yes, that's fine, but we should define gender as this and then link it back to a sex term because you notice he went adult human female using the word that applies to sex and not to gender. Suddenly he's basically just said, no, we're not changing, this definition, this evidence, none of it's correct. Does that make sense to anybody else or did my crazy brain?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
Yeah. So that's one of like the really deceptive tactics. The other one that I saw constantly, and I see this on modern day debates sometimes, and I will usually see it in big crowded debates like what we did, was what the sushi guy was doing the entire time, which you'll notice while you guys were talking, he was adjusting his hat and jumping up and doing doing lifts and talking very animatedly with his chat. And oftentimes he'd go down like this and you just see the Keep America Great. His purpose in doing that, and Dylan really should have brought him in for this, but a lot of times moderators miss it because it's not verbal. His intent was to distract so that people would not listen to what you had to say. They would only look at him. And you even saw this on the presidential level. Donald Trump did it to Hillary Clinton during, I think, the third debate.
Oh, when he was like walking by her and that was
walking by her, shifting his thing around, making faces. All of that was an attempt so that people would look at him. And when your attention is pulled away, you may think you're listening to the person, but your brain doesn't retain it a lot of the time.
Yeah.
We have to point out though that that's probably just purely instinctual behavior from Trump, not some sort of like 4-dimensional chess that
Trump is not smart enough to play checkers. He's not able to play 4-dimensional.
That's something that we tend to see a lot with like these kinds of conservative figures is that they don't actually like realize that they may be doing it or they're not very conscious of it, but they do it anyways. Like if you were to ask them about like those sneaky debate tactics or whatever they are, they're not really going to come up with any. This is like a natural learned behavior that they've been rewarded with. Like oh, I did this, people are going to like me, and it's just something that's become a part of their behavior.
Yeah. So, folks, by the way, I have the memo here. This is the editorial from Science or from Nature Journal. and I'm popping that right into it. It is, and if you guys want to look this up, or if you're looking this up and the chat isn't up for some reason, it's Nature Magazine, which is nature.com, editorial U.S. proposal for defining gender has no basis in science. And this is pretty much the, like, objectively, you find yourself arguing with a transphobe. This not only represents the scientific consensus here, but it says in no uncertain terms that sex and gender are not the same thing. Trans people are valid, non-binary people are valid, and that the sex and medical community does not use a gender binary when talking about any of this. What's also fascinating, by the way, is this bit in it. I think you guys will, if you haven't seen this before. Furthermore, biology is not as straightforward as the proposal suggests. By some estimates, as many as 1 in 100 people have differences or disorders of sex development, such as hormonal conditions, genetic changes, or anatomical ambiguities, some of which mean that their genitalia cannot clearly be classified as male or female. For most of the 20th century, and here's the really key part, doctors would often surgically alter an infant's ambiguous genitals to match whichever sex was easier and expect the child to adapt. Frequently, they were wrong. A 2004 study tracked 14 genetically male children given female genitals. 8 ended up identifying as male, and the surgical intervention caused them great distress. So let's think about that for a second. Like, that 1 in 100, that's 1% of the U.S. population. Now, just that may sound small, but
no, it's huge. It's a tremendous amount of people.
Millions.
And then when you go global, there's no reason to think that it doesn't apply to everywhere else. Then it's all the more people. So yeah, 1%, I believe. A lot of people bring up like, trans people, you know, they constitute hardly any of the population. I believe that the number of actual redheads, people who are actually born, they call gingers, I believe it's somewhat close to the same number as there may be slightly less like trans people, but it's somewhere within the same realm. It's like, you know, like 0.8% or 0.5% are trans, and then like I think less than 1% are actually gender. Are actually redheads in terms of like the entire world. Seems like more because a lot of people are attracted to redheads, therefore there are successful redhead actors, and then also we live in like Europe and America, a lot of white people compared to the rest of the world. So
you may see more of them. It's good to know that there's fewer redheads, though, because that explains why Brent was never able to get himself a hot redheaded girlfriend. That was one of my ambitions in life that will sadly never be attained because I'm married now.
Never too late.
It's never too late. You're right. Yeah, redheads. Oh, I gotta tell you, I'm a fan.
I like them all. Yeah. but
all humans.
Because you know, there's a lot to dive into. We didn't even bring up Wake the Beast, who is. It's funny. It's like, you know, he was so stubborn. There were so many great points that people were making that he was just kind of throwing these walls up. In my opinion, he was kind of intelligently being stubborn and like kind of pig-headedly denying obvious points. But yet, I gotta admit, like, I was just, the entire time I was kind of transfixed. I was just like, oh my God, this is the most intense human being I've seen in like the last 5 years. And I was just entertained by both his eloquence and, I mean, it goes a long way.
His haircut was really awesome.
Way.
His quality to it.
Yeah. So he definitely named himself quite appropriately, I think, even though that he doesn't talk with, I don't know, like like it kind of sounds a little bit like a wrestler's name, but it's still it fits him perfectly.
Yeah, you had a perfect intro to him, by the way, which had me rolling. Like the only reason I wasn't crying was that like it would have been really rude for me to fall out of my chair during the debate.
I mean, you probably understood from what I said, and I'll just reiterate it since there's probably a lot of people who don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Wake the Beast. A few weeks before that, he was on the same show on the Hippy Dippy podcast, and he said to my friend Jangles Science Lad, also real name Justin, he said something to the effect of that he had the heart of a cat, and I thought he said the soul of a cat, but so I when he came, I kind of said this joking thing. I was trying to be serious. I don't know if I kind of broke, if I was smiling as I was saying it, but I said something to the effect of, I indeed have the soul of a cat, and we are a fierce and noble creature, and I just went on this whole thing, kind of defending cats and talking about my cat ancestry.
It was beautiful, and I love that you brought up the Smilodon, and he's like extinct.
I love that. I was about to mention
did
that.
he say that?
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he said that.
Oh yeah, of course he's extinct. It's extinct. It's like, you know, it's the most mammoth. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it's the most gargantuan feline to walk the earth.
Yeah, it's like, screw that cat. You can't have the soul of that cat. It's extinct.
But yeah, I still, like, I think deep down inside he knew that I was kind of jerking his chain, but he just has a poker face the entire time. And so, I was not expecting him to crack up, but still, it was just all the funnier that I was saying this thing, and he was just staring at me with just this total look of just stone-faced seriousness. And I said to Brenton afterwards when we were DMing, he's the kind of guy that, like, I don't even know if he is physically capable of smiling. Like, I would be so shocked to see a photo of him smiling. I would think something weird happened, like he sat on a grapefruit accidentally. You know, it just wasn't. I don't even know what that means. But yeah,
I was really surprised too, because the chat was mostly like conservative heavy, and then the one guy, the sort of centrist IPA dude, left.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're going to replace him with another centrist, and then we get this like insane monarchist.
I will say, he has really good rhetoric. People love him for the way that he speaks. He speaks like a poet, and he sometimes he doesn't really actually say anything. Like, his points aren't really anything at all. But like the meme in chat is like, I heard like Wake the Beast spoke to me, and he didn't even say anything. And it's like, it's a pretty common thing. But the question that really seeps out to me is where do I get a Grandmaster? Where do I get one of those? I'm so curious.
I sent him a tweet about that, actually, because I'm a Kyokushin Shodan, and so I have a Shihan, not a Grandmaster, but, like, you know, I'm pretty serious about martial arts. And so when you say Grandmaster, I'm like, oh. And so, like, but I was about to be like, oh, so where do you practice? And he just dropped out of the chat. And I sent him another tweet, but he hasn't replied. So I don't know.
He's mysterious, that's for sure.
like a butterfly lands on you. You talk to Wake the Beast. Now, this is a little bit more of analysis for rhetorical tactics. So this is another thing that you'll see out of. I got wise to this tactic because ANCAPs do it all the time, because of philosopher Mike Humer, who showed up at the end of my debate with David D. Friedman. Did either of you guys get a chance to see that? I know I
got to see the first half. Yeah, I got to see the first half, but then I had some stuff to do. But yeah, you guys said Friedman was initially doing it by himself, right? Yeah,
he was, because his partner spaced on the time, which is a very ANCAP thing to do. But Mike Humer, he is the father of like 4 of my ulcers, because he suggested a style of rhetoric to ANCAPs where what you do is you start off with a normative ethical claim. and then you try to lead someone through that normative ethical claim to your radical point of view. So you could say something along the lines of like, you know, do you believe that it is wrong to aggress against someone for no reason? You know, to initiate aggression against someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll say, most people will say, no, that is, or yes, that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll say, okay, do you believe that it is right for a person to steal from money from another person without their consent? And you'll say, no, that's wrong. And you say, okay, so then you will agree with me that taxation is theft. Now you see the jump there. Like what happens is that they put forth a normative moral claim, and that's a trap. It is 100% of the time you hear someone try this tactic, the normative moral claim is a trap. So what they're going to do is, I think what Wake the Beast said was, he said, like, is it wrong for a person to like go after their own desires?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because he was talking to a Buddhist. So I'm sitting there thinking, yes, that is wrong. But I wasn't going to say that because it's a whole nother thing. And we didn't want to get off topic because he's setting his trap. And then he went from that to, well, if it's not wrong for a person to go after their own desires, Donald Trump, by, announcing this pick and putting somebody into the SCOTUS, that he's just it's totally right and it's totally within his power and it's fine to do. Now you see the jump, and I actually pointed out what that tactic is for anybody that runs into it is this. They throw that normative ethical claim out there. You can, if you say no, it becomes an ad hominem against you because most people would agree with it, and it sounds to the viewer like you're immoral for some reason. Or what you do is you say yes, and then they either force you to bite the bullet and agree with them, or they make it look like you're inconsistent. It's a very difficult trap. And the way to get out of it, Pisco, he was doing the thing that just about everybody does when they see that trap coming, is he was stalling and trying to kind of talk around it and not answer the question. But that makes you look weak. And it makes it like to people that agree with the beast and haven't noticed that it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
The way you deal with that is you point out that it's a trap, and you offer the disanalogy. So that was one of the things that I came in and broke that with. And then Pisco actually did an excellent job of running with that and turning it around on him. Mm-hmm. But that in and of itself, that was a really sneaky rhetorical trap. And you can't really tell if the person is advancing it disingenuously or if they just don't realize it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, like I tried pointing that. I think this is kind of a curved off point, but he was like, Beast was trying to make the claim that since Pisco would do this, that this is the way that we should design a society and that'd be okay with it. And I tried pointing out that, like, we don't necessarily, at least Pisco's ethical system, we don't necessarily look at the individual action, like the action of one individual, and then try to define an ethical system off of it, right? So like the existence of laws and precedents probably shouldn't come from one individual. And I think I tried pointing out the example that, like, yes, sometimes we could see a murder, right? Like an unlawful murder being what we consider like right, or we would do in that situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should legalize murder and make that like an ethical principle of ours. But Beast just kind of like, he just like slugged that off, and I was like, whatever.
Yeah. WizBiz in the chat, by the way, he said, why not just say it depends? Because when you say it depends, that's what they're waiting for. They use it to make you look wishy-washy and weak. Mm-hmm. It does depend. That's the answer. But you have to be more precise with it, because Pisco did say, after I pointed that out, it depends. And he said, well, it depends doesn't mean anything. You haven't actually answered this, and in that incredibly intense thing. So he's definitely very skilled at rhetoric. He's charismatic, and he has a way of speaking, though also there's something just a little off. And by the way, did you notice that also one of the things that the Proud Boy guy was throwing up was he kept doing that?
No, I didn't, but I did see him like flexing his muscles a shitload at a time.
His non-existent muscles.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a huge guy, but he's got them. I doubt he's much of a skilled fighter. Not that I am. He could probably kick my ass. Yeah, he's.
When people are flexing, I tend to look for the cut. Like, there wasn't a cut in the arm anywhere, so it didn't look particularly there to me. It looked like you can even do that like as a fat guy if you wear a tight shirt. you have to see that cut. But yeah, I mean, clearly, like, the dude wasn't in horrible shape. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I think someone in my chat's correcting. He doesn't. Oh, he should have. Why didn't he say this? Basically, he does all that stuff whenever he gets subs. I don't know if it's like that's what someone in my chat is saying, that like he doesn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I may be confused. Yeah, it's just weird. It's odd because he never points that out. So
yeah, are you talking about the sushi guy? Like he does the strongman pose?
Yeah, whenever he gets a sub, I think it is. That's what everyone's saying in my chat.
Yeah, well, even if he does do that whenever he gets a sub, it's inappropriate in a debate. You need to be paying attention to your opponent and not distracting everybody.
Well, that is sushi for you, not paying attention.
Fair enough.
Yeah. He will not be missed because apparently he's not going to be doing these at least these
He's even worse in 2v2s. I had one with him on Tuesday. R/whoosh, baby. R/whoosh. That's all I have to say. The points flew right over his head.
What did you guys discuss?
We talked about gun control specifically and policies that we should make. And he didn't respond to any of it. He didn't get any of the points. He tried sliding in like false pretenses and like tried begging the question, but he's not very good at it, so he didn't really get it past me.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of these people are very fascists in particular. They tend to be very obsessed with appearances. You'll notice a lot of them there's a lot of flash to them. They're really obsessed with optics. And on top of that, like, and this is something that goes back like all the way to like Francisco Franco. Like Franco, I wrote a script, like a screenplay about the life of anarchist Buenaventura Durruti, who is basically like the anarchist Che Guevara. And Franco in it, and I tried to base it as much on the real history as I could. And this is real history. You might think I made this up. But Franco used to carry around the severed hand of Saint Teresa de Avila, who was a Catholic saint. So it's like a reliquary, supposedly, of this. But if you know anything about reliquaries, like, first of all, it's like a gold jeweled, like mummified hand. And like reliquaries are never actually the actual pieces of the saint. It's just some rando's hand that somebody sold to somebody and put in a jeweled box. And I thought that is a perfect metaphor for fascism. On the outwardly, it has all of these pretenses towards integrity and power and beauty, but inside it is a shriveled and dead thing that is not even the thing that it actually purports itself to be.
Did you guys notice? Changing the subject a little bit. Was it the Turk who posted? He posted a few things about media bias within the chat, and there was there was also a site that rated Tim Pool, and it rated him as center. But then I looked at the criteria for how they do this, and apparently this site, it does not look like a reputable site at all, because they take a combination of both their experts, which maybe they have a decent takes, but then they also weigh that with whatever votes the public gives. So there were over 1,600 votes from the public. So chances are,
who's going to be responding to that poll?
A lot of those people are Tim Pool fans. Might be some Tim Pool haters also, but I would assume more Tim Pool fans are doing it. And then also, this is the topper. They assign like to like the reliability of what they're stating. Like how reliable their rating is, and it was like a little under medium. It wasn't weak, but they were by no means saying like this is a very good measure of his politics or anything. And also, who knows when that was primarily conducted? Because I mean, I'm not saying the guy was ever like a champion of the left, but he's just been flipping further and further to the right for a few years now. So.
I mean, I know Tim Pool personally. We met at Occupy Wall Street. I remember when he first became prominent. We're actually friends on Facebook. We still talk on occasion. And he's not all bad. I'll be the first thing to say that. I disagree with just about everything that he says. And sometimes I'm just like, what in the world? But also, he does strike me as genuine, and he may actually believe that he is a centrist or that he is on the left. But yeah, he's definitely not. And I mean, even back in like the days of Occupy, like the first time that I became aware of him was he was just some live streamer. And then I found out some people who were wanting to do black bloc stuff tried to break his camera. And I got like super pissed about that and said stuff about it. And but like the thing is that like knowing like what he was doing, because he was filming people who did not want to be filmed, you know, it's not a good excuse to break their camera, but also it's kind of crappy, because if you're filming somebody and you're saying, oh, objectivity, but that person's like wanting to do some black bloc stuff, you can't expect yourself to be seen both as a part of the movement or as somebody that's like a hostile force. And sadly that can invoke some reactions from people, and I can also see that reaction from people pushing him further to the right. And I wouldn't be surprised if that attempt to break his camera had something to do with where he wound up eventually.
I think it's weird. I think it's really odd that a lot of the conservatives that we see now on the internet, as they quote, have become conservatives because the left has gone too far, and it's not like what they identify as, it's like their policies as well. So like they'll be like, I was a leftist, and now like the leftists have gone crazy. Now I support tax cuts, and it's like, how did you get to that conclusion? I'll be right back. I have to go change something. It'll be like a second. I'll be right back.
You do your thing. Well, what's your thought on that, Vadim? Like, because that's like Dave Rubin's grift. That was Candace Owens' grift.
Oh, I think that he's just either terminal.
Hey, Vadim, you froze, or maybe I froze.
Stupid or grifting.
Vadim, Polar, are you there?
Oh
yeah,
man, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I heard like you froze for a little bit. It was like I heard terminally stupid or grifting, and then like
and
oh no, he's doing it again. Yeah, Vadim froze. Thank you, Wizdid. By the way, always looking at self, diseased with vanity. Yeah, that's a great way to describe fascists.
I hope that. Hello.
Hey, you're back now.
Oh, I fear that's going to continue happening. That's going to be really annoying for your audience. I said I think it's probably a mixture of both, but I can't imagine the guy doesn't know that he's grifting. I mean, he points out things that like would just take or makes claims. Oh man,
your internet's doing it again. You're back.
Yeah.
Let me
Vadim, is there something going on with your internet?
Yeah, turn it. If you want to go out and come back in, I can bring you back in too. Hang on. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Oh, that was bad. The problem, honestly, the IT crowd, and so Glinner, Graham Lineham.
No.
You've heard of him, right?
No.
Oh, okay. So Graham Lineham is simultaneously a brilliant writer that was a large influence on my sense of humor growing up. He created the shows Black Books, which is my favorite. It was one of my favorites, and also the IT crowd that I just quoted. But he also ruined his career as like a insane TERF. He basically kept tweeting until it destroyed his marriage, and then eventually and his career, and then got him banned. But Yeah, it's a shame though too, because he was genuinely brilliant as a comedy writer, and it was awful to see him throw that all away.
Funny though, he was, yet it's not because I was ever, I don't know, offended by his jokes, but he got so obsessed with which you were probably explaining, got so obsessed with all this anti-trans nonsense, and his jokes about that stuff were terrible. I mean, it was just repurposed helicopter jokes and things.
It's always
like
the same
that.
damn joke.
And you can make sort of funny, like cruel jokes that suck, that you can sort. I mean, it's tough because it's like, I don't know. Usually things that are true tend to be funnier, like that expose something real about humanity. But I'm a pretty impartial judge of humor. Like, I can look at it like gosh, I'm trying to think of, because there's one or two like right-wing comedian, like, for instance, okay, he doesn't bring politics into his stuff, but Norm Macdonald is a very right-wing guy, and actually every now and then on Twitter you can see him making right-wing points within his tweets, and they're not as awful as that shit can be, but they are funny. It's like, I'll be like, okay, I completely disagree with this, but there's a level of funniness to it. And all I'm saying is that it's sort of like the hating transness just sucked him dry of wit, because I never saw him say like a joke that I ever thought was funny. And yeah, it had nothing to do with like, oh, I'm so offended by this. It was just they were just uncreative, bad jokes.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Well, I think something probably changed a lot in his life. Did you ever watch, for instance, did you ever watch Black Books?
Is that the show that? No. I'm getting it mixed up with Brass Ring. No, I didn't.
You should watch it. So Black Books is a series that he wrote about Bernard Black, played by the guy. Did you watch Shaun of the Dead, the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Dylan Moran, the comedian who plays the antagonist in Shaun of the Dead, it's just kind of a wet douche, and he tries to shoot Shaun at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's the star of the show, and he plays Bernard Black, this like burnt out, chain smoking, like Irish bookshop owner who hates being in the bookshop, hates not being in the bookshop, hates dealing with customers, hates being by himself, and drinks and smokes constantly. And it's genuinely a really good show. Like I learned a lot about comedy from it, and one of the things that I kind of saw in it is, I think maybe Bernard Black, there's a lot, Graham worked a lot of himself into that character, and just like the character's disconnection from people and obsessiveness and a lot of the other stuff. It's kind of like how Sean Gunn identifies the most with Rocket, the raccoon. And when he had those like tweets that came out that the freaking like
James Gunn.
Yeah, James Gunn. My mistake. Did I call him Sean Gunn?
Yeah, but no biggie. Go on. He had those tweets about that were kind of joking about like the fucking kids. I don't know.
Yeah, bad stuff.
I should say CP. Yeah, it was that stuff. I mean, like, I don't always like this defense of like, oh, it was different back then. It's never been okay to genuinely talk, to genuinely give credit to like any form of legitimizing CP or child exploitation or whatnot. But there was more at that time, I think, like an acceptance of just like just saying really off the wall shit. And I mean, if you look at it at those tweets, I don't think anyone in their right mind could ever think that he was being serious.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like, hey, I 100% stand behind those tweets. I'm just saying, I look at them through the lens of it was slightly like just the norms were slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that, again,
well, don't forget also that was
because sometimes that's used in a way that like people will talk about Shane Black doing blackface like in the late 2000s as well, and they'll be like, oh, that was a different time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that wasn't it wasn't acceptable for some reason in the late 2000s to do blackface and ask 12-year-olds to twerk. But
that was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking horrible. So it really depends on the thing that you're talking about. And in the case of those jokes.
Oh no, he froze again. Polar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vadim just froze again.
Oh no.
Are you talking to your chat?
Yeah, I was talking to my chat. Someone was asking who made the jokes, but
it was James. Yeah, it was James Gunn, the director. My point in bringing that up, Vadim.
Yeah, this is a catastrophe. I'm sorry about.
It's all right. It's great. You know, you're kind of in and out of our reality.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have a good analogy at hand. I'm sorry. I got.
That's fine. I mean, well, the reason I brought it up was I feel like a lot of humor comes from pain, and I feel like in the character of Bernard Black, we see a little bit of the pain that would eventually destroy Glinner, Graham Linehan. And in Rocket Raccoon, we see a bit of the pain that was part of the reason possibly behind making some of those off-color jokes. Now, also, it's important to remember that that was him getting canceled over it was a result of a right-wing smear campaign.
Mike Cernovich.
Mike Cernovich.
Yeah, who did the same thing to Sam Cedar, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
And you didn't hear about that? Yeah, he did the same thing to Sam Cedar, and Sam Cedar was very briefly, because he does guest spots on MSNBC. Sometimes he's on the Chris Hayes show and stuff, and they briefly fired him or would no longer have him, and then about like a week later, they changed their mind, and Sam Cedar loves to gloat about that. If you ever bring it up on the Majority Report, but
yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the Majority Report. I'll have to, but what I have seen of it, I've liked for the most part. He had there was like a Pepe fascist on there one time that he handled really well that I really enjoyed watching. So in that. I guess kind of on that note, because we are getting a little far afield from the original topic, and that's fine. But as far as the debate went, like, what else were you guys thinking? I for one wasn't keen on the second topic, and I was hoping we'd get through it rather quickly.
Yeah, I really felt like there was. That's why I didn't speak that much during a good portion of at least the final portion of that discussion, because it's just like, what more is there really to say? It's like we were all on the same page, us on the left, of, okay, you guys are full of shit if you're going to say that this should be done and that this is a principled and just ethical thing to do given the recent precedents that we have. And they were basically trying to have their cake and eat it too. I said, hey, look, I'm fine if you say, like, suck my dick, you lose. But yeah, they were trying to kind of make it, refute that it's unethical. And it just, there was nowhere to go from there. Like there really wasn't that much to discuss, and I agree with you. It would have been nice to. unfortunately, Dylan had some issues that he needed to attend to, and I hope he's okay. I felt bad about that, but yeah, I wish we could have just blown through that. We should have been done with that within 15 minutes. There wasn't much more to say after much after the opening statements, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on that. It was kind of boring that we did get into that. Again, it was stimulating for me at the end just because of the rhetorical traps that I was seeing. Now, Vadim or Polar, did you have that same sense?
In the last topic, it seems like we just consistently went in circles, right? And that's what kind of annoyed me, because I think Pisco, who he's like third-year law student, I think this is kind of his wheelhouse, but like this topic is, there's only so far that you can go, right? So we had to repeatedly demonstrate that the issue wasn't even inherently the aspect of what they were saying, but the principle that they were trying to reinforce, like the people having control over the Supreme Court, and that precedents do matter. And I think there was a really good example of how, like, the precedents that we remember the most are the most consistent and will create precedent that they actually stand for, like, because their power lies in the years after their presidency, not inherently when they're in office. And I think that was really interesting. But like that flew over everyone's heads. Like Turk and Sushi just ignored that. They were wrong on two counts. One was the hypocrisy of the Republican Party in the last sense. And they were talking about like doing it in the past 100, 200 years, but like when we set precedent, probably should follow it. But like after that point, I was like, it just went over and over. Then we got into like, I thought Wake the Beast slid in that whole moral ethical question so effectively. I think you brought that up really well, Brenton, is that like, I wish there was more time. I was going to drill him further into that, but that's just the thing with panels, is that like, it's the gotchas, it's the questions, and unless you can call them out really quickly, unless you're really skilled, it can come off as like, haha, he got a clean win, you know?
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you on that. Now, I did notice you got something. There was something we should have drilled them a little harder on, but again, it's hard to do. You got freaking Sushi to admit he didn't even know about Merrick Garland. Like what the hell?
Yeah, like he said the same thing. I was like, it was like, I think Pisco was like, do you have an opinion on this? And he goes, no, it was before I got politically involved. And I was like, do we not have opinions on things before? Like, do we not have historical opinions? Do we not have like...
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was odd, maybe not as ignorant as that, but the Turk mentioned that he said that the whole Merrick Garland thing, or not Merrick Garland was the one who did not get confirmed, right?
Right. He didn't even get a hearing.
Exactly. And he said that was a lame duck, like a lame duck. That's not a lame duck. Like the final year, the entire year of a presidency is even if it's their second term, that's not technically lame duck time. You know, I mean, that's really like you're talking about the last several months. So he was just wrong about that. Yeah, so, and then, I mean, also, technically you could say like a hypothetical of, okay, well, what if Trump loses and they have not yet confirmed the, they probably will, but let's just say that they have not been able to confirm a Supreme Court justice by that time. Well, then he'll be a lame duck. And so then do we suspend what they've put into motion because of the fact that he's a lame duck? I don't think that alone is a reason why. I mean, it's really, for me more than anything, I mean, my two biggest reasons, aside from the precedent that they set in 2016, is the fact that generally we have a more robust hearing with these things. I think that we've learned more, like through Kavanaugh and the sex scandals, that Justice Thomas also had his own. I mean, I think we've learned that.
By the way,
what?
Joe Biden is to blame for Clarence Thomas being, or is largely to blame for Clarence Thomas being appointed.
I do know. That's an unfortunate fact. But yeah, I mean, I think that over time, like I was actually looking at like the amount of time that it's taken for justices over the years to be confirmed, and the hearings have generally gotten longer and longer. And like I said, the average is 67 days.
That was really important to point out.
Yeah. So, not only are we going to get this sham of a hearing, and these people are going to be, or whatever her name is, I forget her name, that he officially endorsed someone.
Amy Conan Barron. I don't remember. Something
Hang
like
on,
that.
I'll look it up. Yeah, Trump.
But the other thing is just that, yeah, he is trying to get a ninth one, not just because he wants that victory, but because what I mentioned about the possible him trying to bypass,
Run a coup.
Run a coup. Run a coup is the best way to put it, and that should be incredibly concerning. Nobody seemed to have anything to, like on the right, it seemed to have anything to say to that. No way to it's just,
I think they'll either deny it or it's something that they want. I mean, like Sushi wants the coup. Like you could tell from. By the way, the woman's name is Amy Coney Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're saying that she's like the female Antonin Scalia, and supposedly she was a clerk of his and has virtually the same outlook on law and just
something like that,
cases and stuff. So she's like a constitutional literalist, and she also is super Catholic. Surprise, surprise. Yeah,
That's really unfortunate. And this is the thing where they were like, oh, mask off. You're talking about packing the court. At this point, if they do that, I don't think the Democrats are going to have the spine to do it. I don't think a Joe Biden presidency would do it.
I think they will.
You think they will pack it?
I think they will. I think it's going to be something that's not discussed immediately. But after a few months, it will start being discussed, and I think they'll, certainly if they have the Senate, I think he'll try and do it. And I get your point. I mean, like, I do not expect Joe Biden to be like just a crusader and just I expect he, I mean, we're dealing with both the vice president of Obama, and then on top of that, we're dealing with a man who is at least somewhat of a shell of what he used to be. So I don't know. I'd like to think that he'll fight for all these things and get all the most progressive parts of his platform done, and we can push him even further. But you got to be realist about it. So just kind of knock on wood and hope for the best if he gets the nomination. I mean, if he wins.
Yeah. I mean, at least Biden's not a freaking fascist.
Yeah.
Somebody I'm getting feedback from someone.
Oh, it might be me. I'll turn my volume down. Are you better? Is that better?
Let me see. I'm still getting feedback. It's Polar, I think, because Polar just turned his off, and now I'm not hearing it.
Try it again.
Hey, Polar. Yeah, I'm getting some feedback from you, Polar.
How about now?
Let me see. I'm still getting feedback, but maybe it's Vadim, because I just noticed you're wearing headphones, so maybe it is
Vadim. I'll put my headphones in. I got them right here.
Yes, that's right. Dance.
One cool thing. One cool thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great now.
Okay, cool. One cool thing. This is so who gives a fuck, but one cool thing about yesterday's broadcast was that for a while the headphone of my computer, or the jack, I should say, has been kind of wonky and didn't work. And so I just tried it yesterday because we were getting feedback, and I realized it's working for at least a temporary period. So
hey,
that was a bonus of doing the show. Another tactic, and this isn't like, I guess, like, no, you'll depending on who you're debating, people will try and pull this shit. And to a certain extent, I guess I'll do the same when I see other people doing it. But like at a certain point, Suspect Sushi was like, "Why are you freaking out, man? What like chill out. Why are you going crazy?" And I wasn't going crazy.
No.
You know? And
you weren't even the one that called Trump a monster. That was me.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, maybe my rhetoric is I wouldn't say it's that hyperbolic, but certainly I've lost my shit in discussions, and so that was me at a pretty chill tone. I don't know. I learned a lot from Brenton. Watched me debate this 9/11, this insane 9/11 truther. I mean, like, this guy was like 50. How did I describe it? Like 50 bottles of brain force without the brain, and I mean, he was just doing all these Alex Jones-isms, like, you gotta unplug your brain from the Matrix, man, and just shit like that. Literally believed that all the footage of the planes on 9/11 is CGI. Just a wacko out there, and maybe a JQer too. I couldn't totally tell. But my point is that I learned a lot from that debate, because he was firing off so much bullshit. He was so loud. I felt like I had to match his exuberance in order to get a word in edgewise. And it really is better in debates to, even if people are pulling that shit, to let them blow their wad and then come in as cool as you can. And, you know, I think I was also a little nervous that because I'm learning more and more through just doing more and more debates. And this guy was like the king of gish galloping, and most right-wing or reactionary types will do that. And I've learned that it's always better. Like I felt like there was this pressure to, like, oh my God, he said 10 million things. Okay, I got to say this real fast. This one thing is wrong, blah, 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 you know. And it's better to just take one thing at a time and fully debunk it, and really, really give it the weight that it deserves. Because if you debunk 4 things inside a 1-minute period, but you do it in a really rushed fashion, and you just don't get the details, and then optically you're kind of getting nervous, just in a myriad of ways, it doesn't work as well. So that's just something that I've picked up recently. You guys seem to have done enough. Or either you're naturally like chill, or you've done enough debates that you know not to kind of feed into that. But
yeah. I mean, for me, it's a little bit of a mix of both. Polar, I know you're talking with your chat now, but what you mentioned you had some rhetoric experience with debate.
Oh, yeah. So basically, when I first started doing this, I felt, and I got some critique, that my rhetoric was lacking to a certain extent. So I ended up spending a lot of time. I've done a little bit of work. And so basically, I've worked a lot on that. And the best way I think I found to do it was like analyzing individuals that you value rhetoric, and taking bits and parts of it that you like, so you can craft your own rhetorical style. I think, and depending on who you're conversing with, is like really valuable. So basically, a perfect example of this is like Bastier, who does a lot of like really pro-American rhetoric, is really effective with like your Fox News viewers, because he's on the side of, well, I'm the real American, okay, but you supporting these conservative principles, you're not the real American, I am. Or the really effective like rephrasing and making your opponent look as someone who doesn't support the base principles of the nation. And Vosh does this a lot. It's like, I'm the one who's actually going through with the Enlightenment and Enlightenment values. And I think that's something that's really effective. And I did a little bit of it yesterday, is establishing like, I don't want to live in a state where the government and the executive branch owns the media, is telling us what to do, and creating a society full of people who enjoy authoritarian power. So I think that was an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah.
You were very effective in that debate, and you're scaring me that you're this effective at 17. Like, so keep working at it, I suppose, is what I'm saying. So I had a question for Vadim, because you invited me to be on the panel, which was awesome. Thank you very much for that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so the Dylan guy, that was my first time meeting him, knowing anything about him. I noticed he had Bernie stuff up in the background, but I also noticed that the deck seemed to be stacked in favor of like just in terms of the total number of like far right people. It really seemed to be stacked a little bit more on that end than kind of the leftist end. So, like, what's his deal?
I don't think he has. I mean, he wants to make sure that he has just 4 right-wing people that, and the unfortunate truth is the majority of people, at least who are right-wing and online, are going to be pretty reactionary, even if they don't realize it. And then he just wants to kind of, I mean, I maybe I can't speak for him. I shouldn't say these things on authority because I can't read his mind, and I've never had a conversation with him about it. But I think that he trusts that if he has a good recommendation, or he's going with people who at least he values their intelligence from the left, that they're going to give good rebuttals. I was on a panel where everyone, and I'm not saying that I'm like, I'm not an anarchist. I'm not a communist or anything. Although maybe there are certain principles, certain things that I think are worthy from those kind of political philosophies. And the one that I participated in several weeks ago, everyone, I believe, with the exception of me, happened. Oh no, well, everyone happened to be an anarchist, but then there was Bastiat, who's not an anarchist. I think Bastiat was for those particular discussions. I mean, we were talking about immigration, and I forget what the other topic was, but he we were all in lockstep with one another in terms of our views on that. But my point is this, that he does have a pretty diverse range of lefty attitudes, and he I don't think he's trying to stack the deck in any particular way either. Well, especially when it comes to the left-wing realm of thought. He also probably realizes that it's probably good business as a streamer to have a range of political thought. So therefore, he'll have some people who are a little to the right of him, representing the left, and more to the left of him. I don't know exactly where he stands. I mean, obviously he was a Bernie supporter, but I don't know if his politics are further to the left of that, and he just favored Bernie as a candidate.
Yeah, or okay, well, he seemed cool. I just
my interactions with him have all. He's got a great sense of humor. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. By the way, Polar, got a for you in my chat here. WizBizRF says, really digging Polar's Lego White House in the background.
He's actually the first person to ever notice that. I've had it for a while. I'm actually gonna get a new I'm getting a new camera angle, and there's this little mount right here, and I'm gonna put all my coolest stuff on there. It's gonna get very awesome. Okay.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad that it was noticed by my chat. WizBiz, you have one of the best names in my chat, as well as you've come in here, Dick Beard the Merciless. Really, that's just top tier name. by the way, this is from a while ago. A guy, I actually know this guy, Colin Lorenz, says everyone forgets the show Big Train with Simon Pegg. I have not seen Big Train, but now I'm going to try and watch it because if that's being recommended to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I mentioned a show that is legendary and very few people have seen. Sometimes it's hard to maybe there are copies on YouTube of it, but Brass Ring is this. Have you ever seen it? It's
Brass Ring. No, I'm sorry. I was actually talking to WizBiz. He said my name's an Adventure Time reference, and I was like, yeah.
Okay.
But no, what's Brass Ring? I do want to hear about this. I'm sorry.
Well, Brass Ring is really amazing because it's one of the best like episodic or sort of sketch comedy shows that is, and it's like a combination between I don't know if you're familiar with like Bob and Dave or Bob and Dave had a show called Mr. Show on HBO, which I think is the best American sketch comedy show to emerge in the past 20 years. And anyway, Brass Ring is like a cross between Bob and Dave and like whatchamacallit, Black Mirror. It's the darkest it's the darkest sketch comedy show that I've ever seen in my life. And not just because it's like has gruesome things, it just has this outlook that is so dismal. And it's interesting because both Charlie Brooker and Graham Linehan worked on it together. I mean, there were lots of other writers in the room, but and Brooker didn't even, to my knowledge, kind of like, he wasn't the guiding force of the series, but it's still so it just has his sensibility to it. And it's like, the best way to describe it is like a sketch comedy version of Black Mirror. So there weren't that many episodes, but holy shit, it's just some mind-blowing stuff, man.
Is it Brass Ring or Brass Eye, by the way?
Brass Eye! It's Brass Eye. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot.
No, that's fine, because now I can steal the title Brass Ring for my new Netflix fantasy series.
Yeah.
It's a really good name for a grim and frostbitten Netflix fantasy series. But yeah, this is Brass Eye.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's just it holds up really well. There's going to be some like very, very, I'm not saying that it had like pop culture humor, but there's some humor that is very contingent on either knowing like pop culture that was going on in the UK at the time. Like it was like the late 90s, early 2000s. So like, I don't know, like they'll do a whole segment that is kind of mocking Pulp. That's not the only thing. Pulp is like a indie rock band that was popular and and it's like, if you don't know, you'll still enjoy it, but you'd enjoy it more if you're familiar with Pulp.
One of the songs that I regularly would perform at the New York open mics, I would do a bluegrass version of Common People.
Oh yeah, that Common People is an amazing song. It's a classic. Great karaoke tune as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how much else I have to say about Brass Eye. It's just it's a damn good show. It's
I'll be sure to check it out.
It's probably the best sketch comedy series that I know of that I think barely anyone knows about.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I never heard of it. I'm still getting some feedback. I think it's maybe from you or
me.
I don't know. I'm getting some sort of feedback. Maybe did I accidentally open my own thing on YouTube and like turn it down low?
I have my headphones in, so I don't know why that would be.
We all have our headphones in. Okay, well, one way or another, I'll just ignore it. It's not too bad. So we're coming up on an hour and a half. I don't know how long you guys have.
I should probably go in like 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good to me. We can keep it nice and tight. So really quickly, though, what I did want to get into before we do our final reaction is you and I talked when we last streamed, Vadim, you were just about to release your video on Sargon. I'm concerned about Sargon, which I have watched. Polar, did you watch it?
I was literally in the middle of watching it. I had to go to sleep, but I'm probably gonna watch it after. Okay, I have to start binge watching the Creationist cat videos.
Yeah,
I think it gets better as it goes on. So yeah, let me know what you think, Polar.
Yeah, I wanted to get some of your thoughts on creating that. I thought it was really well done, and yeah, you blew the lid off of that Sargon Twitter account.
I mean, when I make videos, I try and be incredibly thorough. I gather so much information that I could hypothetically usually make 2 or 3 videos at least that are the same length as the videos that I produce. And I found so much crazy shit going through his. It was a real chore, you know, because the search mechanism on Twitter is not perfect, and so I had to go through all these means of like putting in keywords and just looking up specific dates, and it's so that I could because I wanted to get the full range of craziness that's on there, and this stuff wouldn't be that crazy except yeah, he was kind of like I say in the video, he was LARPing as a Sargon fan through the majority of his time until everyone knew it was him. And
did he finally just admit it was himself, or is he still pretending he's not him?
I don't think he's ever directly addressed it, but he has made videos, and I posted one. You know, because I did say the one like. I don't, maybe this is giving myself too much credit by saying this is the one imperfection in my video, but I basically start out by saying that like there's a certain point where I say like is it Sargon? Is it not Sargon? You decide. And then I go, it totally is, and I'll prove it later. And I was expecting to go through certain tweets or discussions that he had with people that made it 100% clear that it was him. But then as I was making the video, I realized, oh, you know, I'd probably have to spend too much time on this in order to really delve into it. And it's not as interesting as other things I can bring up. You got to pick and choose. If you actually look at the video, there are certain things that, I mean, I wouldn't say are 100% proof, but they go by very quickly. So sometimes you won't think about them. But like, for instance, there's a tweet that he did where he's responding to someone talking about Sargon, and then he responds to it in the first person. So, you know, he responds to it like, well, yes, that makes me feel very blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, you know, unless this Sargon ass-kissing account is completely insane. It was him forgetting like, oh, I have to do this in the third person. So there's a few examples within the video that are like that like, if you really think about it, it's just like the chances of it not being him are very slim. But he has more than once, and I only posted one example of it on my Twitter feed, and I linked to it in the description of my video. He basically says in a video something to the effect of like, you know, I have a burner Twitter account and I was talking to Shoe on Head and I said this, and then she replied and she immediately deleted it, and I found exactly what he said, you know, almost word for word,
with deleted replies.
With a deleted reply, and then someone replied to that deleted tweet, and the person they were replying to was Shoe. So it's just like, that's a smoking gun, you know. I mean, I suppose some crazy person could come up with some elaborate theory about how all of these things are just crazy coincidences, but it's a reach, you know.
And I'll have to follow the account. He's been he showed up in my chat on one of my early streams, and I was going over a debate that I had done with the guy from Atheist Republic, Armin. And he showed up in the debate in the chat and challenged me to a debate or discussion on anarchist Catalonia. And I'm like, you really want to challenge me on that? And he's like, yes, I'll beat you. And I'm like, okay, let's arrange it. And then I never heard from him again.
Yeah. He's kind of a lol cow. I mean, he's another guy who, I mean, I wouldn't say that he has the gravitas of Wake the Beast. Wake the Beast is like,
no one has the gravitas of Wake the Beast.
Wake the Beast
almost impossible.
Exactly. It's like what the fuck did they like did he take Compound V or something? But it's like he has a superpower of just being insanely serious. But he has two things. He has he's got a good voice mixed with a British accent, which always makes everything sound more sophisticated than it actually is. And then he, you know, it depends. Sometimes he's very inconsistent. Sometimes he's an absolute mess and will just kind of say unimpeachably stupid things, or maybe I'm the stupid one here, but you understand what I said.
Yeah.
Unbelievably stupid things, like in a row. And he just relies on the strength of his rhetoric, and I'm not even saying it's that strong, but it doesn't take much strength to be convincing to a lot of right-wing people.
True.
You know?
True.
Yeah.
You just make the appeal to like, I'm protecting you, I'm the patriot, you're the hero, you must help me save Western culture. It's so common. It's like Glenn Beck does it, Ben Shapiro does it, Steven Crowder does it. It's all the same with just slight tweaks. It's like empowering the individual to want to do these things.
Because the individual feels incredibly disempowered in late capitalism. So on the way out here,
I just want to say one thing real quickly. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not monopolizing the time here. But
no,
I made a video. A lot of people think that the video that I made is a sequel to, I made a video called Sargon, This Life in Stupid. And at the end of it, I made it about a year ago. And at the end of it, I teased a part 2. And that was not This Life in Stupid part 2. I feel like he's kind of falling in relevance, yet at the same time, I feel like he's still somewhat, he gets good views on his videos. And more than anything, I think he's a good person to continue to some degree discussing, because he really commandeered the ship of YouTube towards the right to a great degree. And still a lot of the arguments that he has are so indicative of the dumbass arguments that right-wingers put forward. And so my point is that there will be, when I rebrand the channel to Hey It's Vadim, which is not going to be too long from now, there will be a Sargon, This Life in Stupid part 2. And that video will be just as wacky as that video, but it won't be as frivolous. I mean, at the end of the day, I was talking about some kind of aspects of arguments that he's made and making some serious points in that video. But this is more of a dissection of kind of several things about him that I think are either insanely hypocritical or just fundamentally they're wrong, or wrong either in terms of, like, you know, they're just empirically incorrect, or they're really destructive messages to spread to the world. So
I would agree. I had a friend, I think I said this before, I might have said this in our last video about this, but I have a friend who I'm currently doing a series where we go chapter by chapter through Homage to Catalonia. That's George Orwell's account of fighting with the POUM, which is a left Marxist organization when he went to fight fascists in the Spanish Civil War. And that guy, he actually was watching YouTube videos while he was deployed in Afghanistan and somehow started getting recommended Sargon videos and was like, oh my God, what's going on back home? And like called his friend to be like, no, the universities are not burning down. You know, America has not been seized by an angry leftist mob. Everything's fine. That guy's just crazy.
I was in this conversation yesterday. I was in an AMA, maybe this was 2 days ago, and there was this guy who was, you know, he swore that he's like, look, I'm a leftist, but I'm working on this project that is outlining all of the faults with the SJW left, and you know, and he was bringing up like Ann Coulter and fucking Ben Shapiro getting deplatformed, and I was like, they weren't really deplatformed. It's just the people were shouting over them, and I don't know. I mean, like on one hand, I want to be real about like certain problems that the left may have, but then I don't want to make mountains out of molehills at the same time. Yeah. You know?
I would totally agree. Polar, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say it's getting pretty late for me. Yeah.
So we should head out. Why don't you guys plug your pluggables, and we'll end the stream. And Polar, if you want to, let's do a one-on-one stream soon, because I really want to pick your brain.
Sure. Yeah.
On a lot of stuff. And Vadim, yeah, you're incredible, and I would love to speak with you again soon as well.
Yeah, we can do that. So yeah, hey, it's Vadim on Twitter. Creationist Cat does have his own Twitter, but he rarely tweets these days. You can find my channel at Creationist Cat. And
if you landing is real. You can't. You're Polar. Oh shit! I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. The last thing I was going to say is that there will be channel rebranding to Hey It's Vadim, but I'm sure if you search Creationist Cat, you can find that channel.
Great. And Polar, our wonderkind, can you let's plug your pluggables.
Yeah, let me put my my twitch.tv link in the YouTube chat. My name is Polar. I tend to do political content. I am, I guess you could say, I'm somewhat of a Dem/SocDem. That's where I tend to lean these days, but it was fun coming on. Nice to talk to both of you, Vadim and Brenton. It was cool. Just had to say thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, I like you in that because like that's a good space to occupy within like contemporary American politics, where you know you can still persuade people, but you have a decent analysis of capitalism. Whereas like I enjoy being out on the frontier.
Cool. Well, it's been fun, and yeah, I'm sure I'll talk to both of you guys sometime soon.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for the stream. And thank you guys for representing, sanity very well in a very chaotic mess of a debate. All right.
Okay. Likewise.
Yeah.
Later.
Later.